All right, we're going to take another look at SigDigger. I'm going to do a couple videos, but I want to split them apart. So we'll talk about SigDigger first, and then we'll talk about some other applications in another video, separate video, going over using software-defined radios remotely. So let's see. I've got the SigDigger page pulled up here. There's been some improvements lately. And so in DragonOS Focal, the release just a couple days ago, has the main branch release in it. However, there were some updates recently to improve the remote end that I'm going to show. And so I released a Pi build that has the dev branch of SigDigger in it. And because there's some differences, I don't think they necessarily talk together right now. So for this demonstration, I'll show you how you can get everything on the same page, or how I did at least. So let me minimize this. I'm on the laptop right now. You'll notice in the user source directory, I left a script there, BLSD. And so that helps build SigDigger, which I've already ran, and then it puts it in BLSD directory SigDigger. So that is created when you run this script. Otherwise, the SigDigger that is in DragonOS is sitting in the user source SigDigger folder, which has symlinks to that to enable you to just type in the command line and run that. So let's see. Let's jump over to the Raspberry Pi. And so on the Raspberry Pi, like I had just mentioned, and I'll point this out too, so because a couple questions. You'll notice that when you flash the Raspberry Pi, you hardly have any storage left, so just don't forget, do sudo raspi config advanced options. I don't have this automated yet, and expand file systems. That'll get you access to the full thing, or to the full SD card. I'm not going to reboot right now. I'm not too worried about the storage. Anyways, so on the Pi and the user source, you'll see also there's the BLSD script, and it takes a lot longer on the Pi, but that will build the dev branch. So if there was any uncertainty, you could run the same on the client side, I guess you'd say, and then on the server side, so you'd have the same SigDigger versions and the same command line Suscli, or however you pronounce it. Otherwise, there's also the SigDigger right here, which that's what we'll use, and that's what should match up, which I think is also what I symlinked to. So anyways, what I want to do is I want to share both the LimeSDR, which I have back in service now. I got fixed, had to do a little soldering work to the USB port I messed up, so we're back up with the LimeSDR. Something else you want to do if you've just flashed your Raspberry Pi, otherwise when we run SOAP-SDR utility to find our two devices, you'll get the libsdr play API, which is not installed by default. So if you want that, just run sudo sdr play, and this is just on the Pi. I have it somewhat automated on the DragonOS Focal. When you first log in, it'll prompt you if you want to install it or not. So anyways, that will get rid of that error you see. And so now we're down to, we have our B205 mini and our LimeSDR mini on the Raspberry Pi 4. So if we run, and because I know this matches up with what I have on the Pi, if we run directly from here, from the command, and we take a look at list, we'll see our options that are available. We can check out what devices are available. It might take a second because I think the firmware gets loaded in the B205 mini each time I call on it. But let's see. Okay, so we've got the UHD being available and then the Lime not. So let's see. Let's try one more time. Okay, sometimes I notice that when both devices are plugged in, it might affect the other one. So let's just take a look at unplugging the B205 for right now. We'll focus on the LimeSDR. Alright, so we've got the LimeSDR. Let's generate a profile from that with a make profile. So we'll add the LimeSDR, yes. And we can tweak those settings in the, just like it shows there. In the sources.xml, you'll see I had the RTL SDR plugged in, but then we come down here and we see the LimeSDR. We can see the frequency that it starts on, the bandwidth that we're starting out with, sample rate. We could raise that as needed, because once you have this configured and connect, you will be able to change the frequency, but you can't change the sample rate. So you'd want to change that here. And we'll just start out with something small to begin with, but I'll point out this is one of, I think, two. So I have another program that can share the LimeSDR remotely that works completely different, and then I'm pretty confident you can do the same thing that I've shown in the past with the RTL SDR using the SDR Angel server with this as well. So there's a couple ways, but this is a pretty unique way to share the LimeSDR. And so we'll save that. Then we'll take a look at running, take a look at our options again. We'll start our dev serve on our IP address. So dev serve if equals 192.168.0.149. And so the LimeSDR will now be shared over the network. We can see that it's on port 28002. So let's jump back over to elsewhere on the network, and I'm going to run the SigDigger that I just built. So if you're watching this video and you build the SigDigger on DragonOS Focal with the script that's here and use it, then you would most likely be able to talk with the Raspberry Pi until there's been some big changes. And if it didn't work, then you could rebuild SigDigger on both ends at the same time, and then you'd have the same version. Or you can just flash DragonOS. I have a NUC here as well, and then you'd have the same on both ends with what comes in DragonOS. Anyways, hopefully that makes sense. So now on this side, we'll open up should be the compatible version of SigDigger, and I'm calling it directly here as opposed to the symlinked SigDigger that's pointing to the release candidate that was released on the main branch. So we'll open up SigDigger on this end, and I was working earlier capturing some IQ data off of a RC drone camera thing. So we'll need to go switch this to remote, and we'll put in that IP address 192.168.0.149.28.002, and we should be able to connect. Let's see. No remote host. Let's see. Oop. Not sure why this got replaced here. I'm trying to remember what the default username is. I think it's anonymous. Just going to go ahead and we'll remove clear out our configurations for Suscli. 2.168.0.149 28002, and there we go. So we are now connected. I'm looking over on the Pi here. I'll show you what I see here. So we've got our LimeSDR that's connected to. We can see the RX path and it's finished. And so now on this end, we can see we've got our settings available. Let's see. There we go. So let's jump our Lime up to, well, let's see. So now I'm tuning the Lime. And our bandwidth, okay. Let me fix that real quick. So let's disconnect. Let's jump back over. I wasn't really paying too close of attention there. Let's see. We'll go Ubuntu. Open back up our sources. Come down here. Let's try 5. Put an extra 0 on there. Same on our sample rate, so we should have 5 meg on our bandwidth and 5. Let's see, let's save that. So let's serve our LimeSDR back up. Come over here. We'll reconnect. Alright, so now we can see we've got 5 megahertz bandwidth and we can see our sample rate. And so there we go with our LimeSDR being shared over the network. Now this is within my local network, but you can actually use this to share outside of a network, so you can access it remotely. So we can see now what's unique is, let me turn this volume back down, and I mentioned it before. You can see that the forwarding and the audio inspector is opened on the far end, so it's handling all that. Back here we're just interacting and controlling it and hearing the audio. So let's try let's see what we can do with the Pi here. I think I used the Blade RF before. Let's see if we can bump this up. So we're at 5 now. Let's see what happens if we go to 12 with the LimeSDR, which I think can go all the way up to 30 something. Alright, back over here. Okay, I see I'm connecting. So we're losing some samples there. It might be a little much for the Pi. I'd have to compare to my NUC. Well, also too, if I drop the baseband audio preview, it lowers some of the processing that's happening. So okay. All right, so that's with the LimeSDR. So that's one way to share the LimeSDR over the network, connect to it, remotely control it. There's a lot more that you can do with SigDigger. We can open up, let's see, how could I show this? We could open up a, let's see, I'm going to plug in a drone. I've got the drone sitting here with 5 gigahertz. Well, that's not going to work because LimeSDR doesn't go up to 5 gigahertz. So we'll save this, what I was about to explain, for the B205. But just know you can open inspectors here, which opens on the far end. I'm looking over on my other screen here on the Pi where it's opening the FSK inspector. And so honestly, I haven't tried this recently, so I don't know how long it takes to open up. I see we've got a request of the FSK inspector, and what you should see is a tab on this end, which we do now. So it just took a little while to open, and then this provides you more options to break down and further look at the signal that you're tuned to. There's even an analog TV option here. When set up correctly, it's kind of recommended to record samples. I was testing it earlier, and then you can break down and look at NTSC and PAL, and there's a whole bunch of other options in here. That would probably be a whole nother video itself. So closed out of SigDigger. Let me jump back over to the other end here. We'll take the LimeSDR out, and we'll try and set up the B205mini. So I think, yeah, pretty well, other than I guess SDR Angel. Yeah, so SDR Angel would most likely be able to share the B205mini over the network with the video that I showed where I did it with the RTL SDR. But this is another unique and easy way to get your EDIS equipment shared over network connection outside of your local area network. So let's make sure we see our B205mini, and so the screen I'm on right now is the Raspberry Pi again. We'll let the firmware load. Okay, all right, so we see we've got our UHD available. Let's make a profile with it. Again, it might take a second. Okay, so the UHD, yep. All right, and let's go tweak those settings. Now something I noticed with the B205mini and SOPI, we can see, let's see, we can see SOPI. If you do a dash dash probe driver equals UHD, you'll see the settings that are available. So that's the TX channel. We can see our sample rates are here, 4, 5 something, 8, and then jumps all the way up to 16. However, the bandwidth is much higher, so I'm not quite understanding how you change those settings, because most of the SOPI programs only let you go as high as the sample rate. So let's go, we'll go with an 8. Let's see, 8. Come down here, we'll find our B205. Well, it's got 3125 set there. Alright, that's our bandwidth. And let's change our sample rate here. Alright, so we should be good now. Nope, one more 0 here. 7, okay. So it should be 8 meg. Let's see. So again, we'll start our dev serve. Let's see. So now we're on 28003 for UHD. Over to the laptop. Start up SigDigger. We'll go change the port 28003. Let's connect. So I can see on the here where we've got the connection made. We'll jump back over here. Again, we're controlling our B205. Oh, and I actually have a 5 gigahertz antenna on it. So let's check this out. Let's see. That's why we don't see anything FM here. So I've got it. We need to jump up to, let's jump up to 5. Oop. 5. Oh, there we go. So this is our FSK coming off of the drone. I'm looking at it remotely here. I don't think 8 megs is going to be enough to get the full, let's see. Let's try this. We'll open this up. Just try and capture everything here. Let's see if we can open up an FSK inspector. This is probably asking a lot of the Pi. I can see I'm losing a lot of samples. So obviously need something with a little more power, but since I went ahead and clicked it, we'll just give you an idea of what you could do with probably something a little more powerful on the end running the software-defined radio. All right, so we've got our FSK opened up. Let's see, I know there's some channel property settings that we'd want to set. I'm doing this from memory. We'll change to the power spectrum. We can bump our gain up between 10 and 20. Let's see. Take AGC off, disable sample, normalization. And so you're just going to have to play around with these settings, but again, it's better to, well, right now it's not really possible to record remotely yet, but we're losing a lot of samples here trying to do this in real time. But this is kind of the flow of how you do it. So if you start this up, we go to analog, and so this is where you would, if everything wasn't just dropping, which you can see over here is happening. You'd be able to get some pretty good analog video remotely, most likely. So anyways, there's a lot of things that you can do, and we're doing this all with on the local network here, so it might be quite a bit more difficult if this thing was being accessed through the internet. Of course, it's going to rely heavily on bandwidth, and yeah. So anyways, just to kind of recap, that's yet another way, well, really the only way I've shown the UHD being shared remotely. So I'm pretty excited about that. The Edis B205. So yeah, there's that, and then the LimeSDR. I'll show another way in the next video I put together where we can share a LimeSDRmini. But two pretty unique software-defined radios being shared remotely and then controlled by SigDigger. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. All right. Thank you.